Let's take a look at some Blade basics to get us started with templating in Laravel. Now I've cleared everything out just so we can start from scratch, and our goal here is to create a route which renders a posts view that lists through a list of posts. Now we don't have anything in the database yet, we'll get to that a little bit later, but let's start by just creating out a route inside of here called /posts. We'll use a closure for now because we've not covered controllers, and let's create a list of posts just on our own. So let's create out an array here with an ID of 1 and a title of just post 1, and let's create another one just down here with the post ID of 2, and we'll call that post 2. So we want to render out a view here, so we're going to go ahead and return a view, and this is going to be post say index. I haven't created this file just yet, so let's go ahead and do that now. Create a posts folder just to keep things nice and organized, and an index.blade.php file, and we'll just create out some basic HTML markup here just to get started. Okay, so the first job is to pass this down to the view. Although this is an array, we can still pass this down. You can pretty much pass any type you want down into a view. So I'm going to call this posts, and I'm going to reference the posts array that we've created up here. Okay, so inside of index.blade.php, our goal now is to iterate through these. But the first thing we might want to do is check if we have any posts first of all. And that's where an if statement will come in within Blade. So most Blade syntax starts with an @ symbol and then the name of the thing that you want to do. If you're coming from raw PHP or another framework, you might be used to using something like Twig. You'd normally do something like if, and then you would end the PHP tag down here, and you would put the expression inside of here that you wanted to evaluate. But with Blade, we can say if, use pretty much the same syntax, so it's still some braces just here. And we're going to say if posts, and maybe we wanted to use the native count function on that. Now to end the if statement, we use @ again, and we use end if. So most things in Blade will end, so we'll use an end if in here. So now that we've done that, let's say you have posts, just to get that output to the page. Let's give this a refresh over on /posts, and sure enough, we get you have posts, which is great. Now, if we didn't have posts, so for example, if this was an empty array, so I can just go ahead and comment these two out, and we come over, we don't see that. So that's our if statement working. Most of the time in Blade, you'll just be using ifs and for each loops, which we'll take a look at in just a second. So these are really the only two things I'm going to cover here. But when you get into more advanced Blade stuff, you'll be able to pretty much understand the syntax and know what it does. Okay, so if we have a count of posts, we want to list through them posts. So let's just say list through posts. But what if we don't have any posts? Well, again, what we can do is use @ and else, and then down here we can output something if we don't have any posts. So let's say there are no posts. Let's come back over and comment them out again, and this time of course that if statement will the expression in that if statement will be false, so we see there are no posts. Okay, let's bring it back to having some posts, and now let's look at listing through this data. Now again, we're working with a plain array here, so we just want to do pretty much what we would normally do in PHP and iterate over these items. And you probably guessed we're going to use @ and then for each. So we're going to say for each posts as post, and you probably guessed we're going to say end for each, and then inside of here we're going to do whatever we need to do to output each of them posts. So for now I'm just going to create a plain div with the text post in there. Sure enough, we have 2 posts, so we see post output twice. But we have access to this post now, so I can go ahead and output the post title, and we need to make sure that we use the Blade output syntax to do that. And there we go, we have post 1 and post 2. And of course we can access the ID in exactly the same way, so I can output the ID just inside of here and go ahead and give that a refresh, and we see 1 and 2. And this pretty much works like most things in Blade, like a normal PHP for each. So for example, I could grab the index of each of these posts as well if I wanted to output the index. So let's just go to the end and output the index that we get from there. And you can see that works as we would normally expect within PHP. So I'd say 80% of the time you're going to be using if statements within Blade and for eaches as well. There are lots of other things within Blade that we can do, and we'll be covering some of them in this course. But for now, as long as you know these, you can pretty much start to build up basic applications, listing through things, outputting things, and checking things as well with if statements.